Hello, my name is Poliquin. At age 17, when I entered university, I decided to learn German. My only connection with Germany was my father, who was a great admirer of German language and culture. He read Goethe and Schiller in the original language. And since I loved and admired my father, it was almost a natural choice for me. In the summer following that first year of study, I joined this great program where a bunch of us Canadian students were parachuted in various points in Germany. We were provided with full-time employment, a place to stay, and we could immerse ourselves in the language and culture for 3 months. It's not always easy to willingly uproot yourself, but it was the kind of experience that puts iron into your blood. 3 months later, when we all congregated again in Berlin, most of us could master the language. Some of us also came out more mature, more attuned to politics, culture, and real life in general. It was, as we say today, a foundational experience. The memory of it stayed with me all my life. After that, I studied German literature, did a master's, discovered Kafka, and through it all, became a fiction writer, an essayist, and a translator. Now, would I do it again? Of course not. If I could hit the reset button and go back in time, I would study linguistics and learn an indigenous language like Cree, Inuktitut, or Innu. I would live on a reserve or in a town like Iqaluit, immerse myself totally, and become trilingual in the most Canadian sense. And then I would try to share that experience with others. My main aim would be to translate, let's say, The Little Prince or Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea into Cree or Inuktitut, and then translate indigenous folk tales and more modern writings into French or English, and thus ensure some sort of mediation between our worlds through the art of literature. Why translate? Because it is an art form. As André Malraux said, art wards off death. Artists are mortal. Art is immortal. As well, the translation of literary masterpieces is a powerful tool in gaining self-confidence for any language bent on staying alive. It allows your world vision to travel, for one, and two, that's how you naturalize into your own language the great works of the world. Start with children's books, Tintin and the Little Prince, and then move your way up all the way to John Saul. Now, we didn't do it all. Why didn't we do it all when I was 18? Of course, I don't regret my German immersion, because it was a time when Germany welcomed young foreigners like myself to try to heal the wounds of the war that were still raw. Also, my own stays in Germany brought me closer to Eastern Europe, Russia, for instance, and it only widened the image I had of the world. And that experience did not estrange me from my own Franco-Canadian culture. Quite the contrary, it strengthened it. But I repeat the question, how come we did not do for indigenous languages what we did for Spanish and other European languages? Simply put, because of the colonial mindset of the time. You know the song, I'm sure. Oh yeah, learn German, it's good for trade, good for avoiding future wars, but who in his right mind would learn a localized Indian language? There's no money in there. I don't hesitate to say it. In that regard, we, as a nation, have failed. We should have trained in my time at least 100 young men and women in the study of other Canadian indigenous languages, and it would have been good for national unity and, yes, trade. But you know what? It's never too late. In the fall of 2016 at Glendon College in Toronto, a symposium was held on the future of indigenous languages in Canada, and it produced what is now called the Glendon Declaration, which calls upon the Government of Canada to take measures similar to what we have done in this country to promote official languages. It's a great start, and we can do wonders with that declaration if we put our collective mind to it. Now, if I may get a little personal here, I'll say, in all modesty, that I had a hand in the Glendon Declaration in a very oblique way. You see, to get even more personal, I'll admit that one of the reasons I became a Germanist was that I wanted to best my father. He himself believed that sons should best their fathers and daughters their mothers, or both parents, while we're at it. So the terrain I chose to show my mettle was the German language. And I still recall vividly the days he visited me in Germany, and when I discovered how limited and mangled his German was, I did my best to hide my disappointment when I escorted him to the train station to buy his ticket home. He realized, too, that I had bested him on the field where he had reigned supreme until then. And he said, "You know, for the first time in my life, I'm jealous of a son of mine, but yet I feel a great deal of pride in admitting it." Guess what happened in my family? My own son decided to best me too, and he became a linguist and learned Chinese. He ended up doing a doctorate at Harvard, a school where my only chance of getting in was as a window washer. And then, I guess to best his mom, he became a lawyer and specialized in linguistic law. And one of his first scholarly articles dealt with the future of Indigenous languages in Canada. And the principles he outlined in his article now form the base of the Glenton Declaration. His foundational principle would please John Saul immensely. My son, who, by the way, is named Gabriel, says that communities alone should decide on how to organize or vivify the teaching of their languages. Not we, they. The Indigenous peoples should be in full control of their linguistic destiny. John says the same thing in his book, The Comeback, when he talks about architecture, another art form. He basically says that for years, we Southern Canadians have been transplanting suburban housing in the north, lodgings that decay rapidly here. Why not let the people here design their home housing and let them use local materials instead of imported standards from the south? It's one of those fields where the Indigenous peoples of this country should have the means to decolonize themselves. I just want to add translation and language to the mix. And when the Indigenous peoples will have decolonized themselves fully, we too will be free. I believe that. Thank you.